Let's go to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Leslie PROLL, your assessment of Eric Holder's record. And by the way, were you surprised by his announcement yesterday?
Well, I was surprised that it happened yesterday. I think there have been rumors about his impending departure for some time now, and I think he himself had said that he was going to wait until the November election. So I think we were taken a little bit off guard in terms of the actual day that it happened. But we have expected this for some time now.
So talk about his record. Talk about Eric Holder's record and your assessment of it.
Sure. I mean, we think that he will go down in the history books as one of the nation's finest and most extraordinary attorney generals. I mean, he's going to be right up there alongside Bobby Kennedy. And, you know, it's not only for his aggressive enforcement of civil rights cases, but he has shown commitment and vision and courage in the way that he has used the platform of his office to really advance the national conversation on race. And I think when his legacy is brought out, that is really what people are going to remember about him. He was unafraid to talk about race in this country, and that, I think, is what he will be remembered for most.
Well, I think that Eric Holder's record in the area of financial fraud and holding corporate criminals accountable is really radically different than his record in the area of civil rights and voting rights. In this area, he's failed utterly. No one has been held accountable for the Wall Street crash, none of the Wall Street executives, none of the Wall Street firms, for widespread financial misdeeds that led to the worst recession we've faced in 70 years, tens of millions of people being thrown out of work, millions of people being thrown out of their homes. There was basically immunity. And in fact, when the Department of Justice under Eric Holder found evidence of large financial firms engaging in epic-level money laundering on behalf of narco-traffickers and countries the U.S. government considers to be enemies, it still decided not to criminally prosecute them on the grounds that they were too big to fail, or as it became known, too big to jail. Essentially, a decision was taken that if you are a financial institution and you become big enough and powerful enough, you are above the criminal law. And unfortunately, that too is going to be a major part of Eric Holder's legacy.
I agree with Attorney PROLL. I think he's one of the most extraordinary attorney generals in the history of this nation. By the time he finishes, he may be the third longest serving attorney general ever. He has weathered the storm of an enormous racial backlash against black people in power at the top. He is arguably the second most powerful black person in the history of American politics after the president himself. So this is a man who was a proxy for the president in many ways in terms of the symbolic representation of black power and the way in which, or American power in a black man, I should say, and the way in which that has been responded to by such vicious and acrimonious, if you will, articulations by people in the Senate, people who are questioning the Attorney General, by politicians who felt open season on him. And as a result of that, when we look at his record, we got to put it in the context of the abstract versus the real, the abstract versus what's achievable. In the similar vein that had Barack Obama come into office and allowed the financial institutions of America to fail, you can't overcome that headline. Nation's first black president allows the financial institutions to fail. There's nothing that we can ever do or say that would have counteracted or countervailed that particular reality and that headline. And Eric Holder, look, we're not saying he's perfect at all, because no attorney general or politician is. But what we're saying in the light of what he did, if you're not alive, you can't be worried about being sued. If you're not alive, you can't worry about financial malfeasance. So if you're in prison or in jail disproportionately and you happen to be an ordinary citizen, those things are really incredibly important. So while, yes, get the criminals who have continued financial malfeasance in this country, but what he's done for the criminal justice system, what he's done for sentencing, what he's done for mandatory sentencing, what he's done for racial profiling, what he's done to combat police brutality, what he's done to say that the American Voting Rights Act should be protected, and his, I think, creative use of different aspects of, different sections when others were gutted by the Supreme Court has to be acknowledged. And my colleagues on the left sometimes neglect what is important to the masses and millions of people who were never under the purview, even of the white left, to be concerned about some of the issues that African American people and Latino people and many others, religious and ethnic minorities, have been concerned about. I think in that case, he will stand tall in the history of American jurisprudence, and certainly as one of the great attorneys general of all time.